I was interviewing people, and so many of people talked about having a multiple source of income, not just doing your normal job, but what else can you have that if this thing disappears or falls away, as so many service jobs have, hospitality jobs have, if you don't have something else you can do, you're in trouble.
Hey everyone, Nick Nanton here, and I'm here amidst the global pandemic, filming with my friend Jack Canfield. We're of course socially distanced, which is appropriate at this time. Jack, we were talking a little bit off camera, and I thought there's so many people who could use a lift during this time. And so I just want to talk with you a little bit about some of the things you're doing during the pandemic to, well, not only to stay healthy, but to keep your mind active and to not be so concerned about all the things going on around you. And sort of what you're focusing on, because we both know I am responsible and you're responsible for yourself. So what have you been doing during this sort of unique time?
Well, first of all, given that I'm 76, I'm healthy, but I thought, let's not take a chance. So I've been staying at home mostly. It's the first time I've been out of Santa Barbara since March 16th, and down here in Hollywood where we're filming this. And I have been eating really a plant-based diet and not drinking alcohol, never smoked, so that's good given respiratory diseases like the pandemic COVID-19 thing. And I'm getting lots of sleep. I'm doing tons of supplements of herbs and zinc and D3 and mushrooms, not the kind that give you psychedelic things, but that they have antiviral capacities. I'm doing some essential oils that also have research that shows they fight off viruses. And I'm exercising, meditating, staying happy, because basically what I did for the first month and a half, maybe 2 or 3 months, was I did a lot of podcasts for free just to help people deal with fear, because there was a panic that started to happen. And as soon as you go into fear, your energy goes into the back part of your brain, the amygdala, and what happens is your immune system goes down. Because when you're in fear, the body's basically saying, if this tiger's about to eat me, it's not so much I need to worry about getting the flu, I need to run from this tiger, so I need all my adrenaline in my arms and legs to be able to run or fight, fight or flight. So it's like, but that takes you out of the prefrontal cortex, which is where rational thinking occurs. It's where insights and breakthroughs and creativity, which we all need right now, spiritual downloads, all of that. So I did a lot of that, just be of service, which was all we could do at the time, And we had about $500,000 in deposits for live trainings that I didn't want to have to return. So we had to spend a lot of time on the phone with clients that were signed up for trainings, both for personal development and learning how to be a trainer, and pivot people to online and pivot ourselves online, because we haven't been doing that. So knew how to use Zoom basically, but breakout groups and, bringing in music and, a lot of stuff, technology to learn. So we've done that successfully. We've started to do a lot of individual coaching. I had not been doing coaching for a long time, but I thought, well, if you're willing to pay this many $1,000s a day and I'm not out there speaking, then I'm willing to do that. I don't talk about the new normal, I talk about the new better. And I'll give you an example, 2 examples. Number one, I was supposed to do a talk for Bacardi, which is they make Bacardi rum and they have other brands, tequilas and scotches and so forth. And I was supposed to fly to Bermuda, day to get there, be in Bermuda to speak for a couple hours, can't fly home that day, fly home the next day, 3 days out of my life for my fee. Well, what we arranged was I got to keep my fee, walk down from my bedroom, sit in front of my computer, and teach. And originally I was supposed to speak to 400 managers. Now I got to speak to 4,000 employees, because all their employees were sheltering at home as well. And so I got much more exposure, sold more books, everyone was happy, the company loved it. And so then we started thinking, well, we can do these virtual keynotes. And I made them experiential as well. I had people actually do things, have little aha experiences. And they still want me to come back and do a live manager thing, so that's in the future. And then we had this one program we were doing in LA where we would have had about 150 to 200 live people. And when we had to pivot it to online, we ended up with 470 people from 47 countries. Because those people wouldn't have flown from Ecuador or from South Africa to be in there, but now that it was online, they could do it. And the other thing we found is that we could do it over time. So 2 hours every 2 weeks. And it allowed us to have the follow-up and the ability to coach people through the resistance that comes up, the falling off, and then to have daily engagement. Like we do a lot of challenges, write an appreciation letter to somebody, go for a 20-minute walk, do something you've never done before, and then post it in our Facebook group. And so that level of daily engagement was getting much more transformation actually occurring than we were doing before. So for me, a lot of what I would have never gone to, I think it's forced us to go there quicker, and we're finding out a lot of it's better. Now, do I still want to go do live trainings? Yes. I miss the hugging, I miss the laughter, I miss the applause, all the stuff that comes from being in the group energy. I look forward to that again. The other thing for me is I didn't realize how much I didn't like getting up at 3 in the morning to catch a 5:30 plane to go to the East Coast to get somewhere else, and then to have a day of jet lag in Germany or whatever. And so I'm still going to do that, but not as much. And I'm really enjoying being at home with my wife. We are reading stories to my grandson who's in Brooklyn every night, and finding out much more about him. And he's more than we would have been if I was on the road all the time. So there's been a lot of good things that have come out of it.
That's amazing. I mean, so a lot of lessons there in that. The thing that I too started doing when this happened was, it's really easy if you start worrying about everything you could possibly worry about. It's never ending.
Yes.
The fear is never ending. But once you step away from that for a second, just say, how can I serve other people? Not only does it reinvigorate you, but you start solving the problems that you were worried about, because you're instantly not thinking about yourself and the problem I have. You start thinking about, how can I serve that person? And we've created multiple new businesses during the pandemic as well. And it's been really interesting to see how things are shifting. I mean, we're starting to seem to be like the numbers are slowing a little bit, which is great. But what happens next? I mean, nobody knows. And so it is a really unique time. I would assume you've never seen anything like this in your life, right?
No. We had a big hit when the economy crashed in 2008-9. We had a hit back in 1993 when the first Gulf War came about. Everyone was on TV watching. And at that time, the majority of my business was educators. We were doing a lot of workshops for schools, speaking at school conventions. All that money dried up because the budgets dried up. So we had to pivot to do general public seminars, and that sustained us. My staff and I, we got together and I said, I don't want to fire anybody because we're a family. So would everyone be willing to take a 20% pay cut? Then I don't have to fire anybody. Everyone agreed. I think everyone's afraid they'd be the one that got fired, so everyone agreed. This time around, what I did was the same thing. I remembered that. I said, I don't want to fire anybody. We have like 12 full-time staff and a couple of people that are consultants that work with us a lot. And so I said, let's see if we can find a multiple source of income that isn't dependent on people showing up for personal development training. And I found an essential oil company that basically is a network marketing company. I signed up everyone in my company to be under me and do that. And so generally we've now got people making several $1,000s a month from this essential oil business we're doing. And I discovered essential oils are pretty far out. These are amazing things. They are essential oils that have a frequency that when you either rub them on your skin, inhale them, or put them in a diffuser, or you can ingest some of them, that your body energy vibration goes up. And literally, I've seen people that were depressed become non-depressed. I've seen people that were having health issues disappear. I've seen people's immune systems get stronger. We did a thing called the emotional reset for a month where we had everybody taking these 6 oils. One was called release, one was called forgiveness. And just to give you a quick example, about halfway through this, doing this twice a day, putting these oils on 10 minutes apart, and with no facilitation, no one telling me what I should be focusing on, I have a memory of a guy I taught high school with when I was in my 20s. He was an African American. We became best friends. So I'm in graduate school. I've just moved to Chicago. I don't have any friends. He became my best friend. We'd go out after school together. We'd go to clubs on the weekend, jazz clubs and so forth. And the spring, he comes and he says, I just joined the Black Muslims. I'm not allowed to talk to white people. You're the devil. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And he walked away. It was like your wife coming up and saying, in 1 minute, we're done, and no more conversation ever. And you go, what the hell just happened? And I had forgotten about that. But it came up, and I realized I felt great pain that I never really allowed myself to feel because I was in my macho stage back then. And I was able to release that, forgive him, And the subluxation I've had in my neck for years when I go to the chiropractor is not as difficult to adjust as it used to be. So I obviously was holding that on like someone's a pain in the neck, that kind of thing. So some extraordinary stuff. So we were here filming people today. I was interviewing people. And so many of people talked about having a multiple source of income, not just doing your normal job, but what else can you have that if this thing disappears or falls away, as so many service jobs have, hospitality jobs have, if you don't have something else you can do, you're in trouble. So I would really encourage everyone, this is what we did, but find something else that's of service to people. One of the things that happened in my town, because I collect these stories because my chicken soup days, is these high school kids. They're not going to school. They see there's a problem, and these are upper middle class kids. And one of them said, "Let's be of service. And you talked about this when we started this interview. Let's find people that are older, that are afraid to go to the store. Maybe they can't go. They're afraid of getting compromised, in terms of the pandemic and COVID-19. And we'll go. You give us your grocery list. We'll go pick it up and deliver it to you." And they did it for tips at first. And they called it Zoomers for Boomers. And we're zooming around for you boomers who are old. And it was so popular and so successful, people said, you should charge for this. And now I think they're in like 7 cities all around the country. They've got a business and they're still in high school. So it's like when you come from service and you find a way to meet a need, there's a lot of needs now that didn't exist before. Tutors for kids at home. I see all these books on Amazon when the pandemic hit. The top 100 books were all children's books. Parents are going, what do I read to my kids? What do I do to keep them activated? And then it was how to teach spelling, how to teach math, how to teach, because the parents had to become it. So look for what's the new need and find a way to fulfill it. And if you can do it with what you're already doing, great. And if not, maybe you develop some new skills. And online is where we all certainly need to be doing a lot more.
Absolutely. I think a couple things you said there that really resonate. Dan Kennedy, who we both know, says the worst number in business is always 1, and that also includes your sources of income.
I love that.
I mean, you don't want one person is the only person who knows how to handle a situation at work, because God forbid they get sick or hit by a bus or whatever,
right.
and then one source of income, all these things. So that's always wise advice, to constantly be looking for other ways to expand your income streams. Also, I love the fact that as we've gone virtual with so many things, it still is great. Like, it's great to see you, great to see other people.
Right.
And I never want to get away totally from that, but we've been stuck in, education itself has been a pandemic for so long, how broken it is. And just because there were no good math teachers that lived in my town, I had to have a crappy math teacher, right? But now it doesn't matter. Now you've got Khan Academy, which a lot of teachers use as supplemental, but I love thinking, what is the next breakthrough for this? So, for instance, let's say a tenured college professor who might do really well, maybe make a couple $100,000 a year working at a college, right? If that's every university might have 1, maybe 2, globally celebrated professors, like the best in the world, maybe.
Yeah.
So what if that one person could just say, hey, anyone in the world who wants to take my economics course, and I'm the best in the world for college credit, it's $1,000 a student. And thousands of people could take these courses, and they could actually learn well instead of having to put up with a crappy teacher that's just been at their university forever. I'm super excited to see what's going to shake out in education. There's a lot of spaces, but education, I'm really excited about.
Well, think about this. You could create an online high school that could become accredited. And I remember back, I had an amazing English teacher, an amazing history teacher. Those were the 2 great teachers in my school.
Right.
But in the school down the road, it was probably a great Spanish teacher.
Right.
What if you curated all of these best teachers, put them all together in an online program that was, accessible by the student when you want them, as long as you did the work and took the tests and got all that. It could be better, it could be faster, it could be less stress. Kids go to school, get into drugs and all kinds of bad influences and so forth. So, I just think there's so many possibilities for what can happen right now.
Yep, I totally agree. Dan Sullivan says, right now, your job is to help your clients and those who follow you to see their future, because no one can take action if they can't see a future. So that's one thing we have to focus on. And also, you can't be creative when you're in a state of scarcity. So I encourage everyone just to find things like that you normally just forget about, and be grateful for them, that you have your health and you have your family. Like I had 3 months, 4 months at home with no travel. I started traveling in the last couple months, but I had not traveled that little since my 15-year-old was born.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm home every week, but it's disruptive.
Yeah.
And so super fun. Lots of things are changing, but I just, my encouragement would be to look for things to be grateful for and find out how to serve people, and whatever you're supposed to do next will show up.
Well, let me say one more thing. I teach something called E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. So the pandemic is an event. It's not the thing that determines. I always say it's not the events that determine your outcomes. It's your response to the events. So this is a bigger event than most people have to
Right.
deal with. It's not like you just lost your job. I mean, the whole culture, the whole world, in flux at the moment, and a lot of challenges. But there's a lot of growth happening. Companies are realizing maybe we don't need all this office space. People are realizing I like working from home. I can still get a lot done. I'm spending more time with my kids. We're not polluting the environment as much. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to be looking at, and to realize that if I'm not happy, it's my response to this that's making me so. It's not the event. If there are people happy in the same income bracket as you, in the same town, whatever, then they're doing something different, because it's the same outer environment, the same economy. So 1 + 1 = 2. And all of a sudden it's 0 + 1 = 1. If you want 2 again, you got to do something different. That means you got to change, you got to grow. And a lot of people just went into freeze, and they just kind of hoping it would go away or it'll get over. And some people are saying this may not get over until the end of 2021. And who knows, maybe after that we'll still be wearing masks. So the point is to realize that my future, my experience, my happiness, my wealth, my joy, all of that is basically my responsibility. And you need to be listening to people like you and me and all the people you interview and the people you make movies about, because these are the people that are the most resilient, the most educated, the most creative, the most responsive. I think it was Eric Hoffer. He was known as this longshoreman in San Francisco. He was known as a longshoreman philosopher. And he said, it's not the survival of the fittest, it's survival of the most learned, meaning that the people who are learning new stuff are going to be successful. The people who think they already know are the people that are responding to what they used to know that doesn't work anymore.
Right.
So we have to be in constant learning mode. And fortunately, you and I are people that are contributing to bringing that to people.
Absolutely. I just made a short film on adaptability. There's a new adaptability quotient. There was IQ first, then EQ, now AQ.
AQ, I love that.
Yeah, and it's actually something you can change. The film's called Seeing the Invisible. It's a short 10-minute that we filmed during the pandemic. We actually had to pivot during the pandemic and started filming on Zoom because we couldn't send crews out. And I was pretty blown away we were working on the film, and I told the guy I was working with, I was like, well, we're just going to have to wait till the pandemic. He's like, no. The whole thing is about adapting. Let's adapt. I was like, okay. And I reluctantly did it, but it came out great. It also reminds me, people need to go to Amazon, check out your film. You tell a great story about, the purpose in life is not to get to the end without anything bad happening.
Right.
I'll just leave it there. It's just a great story. It's super relevant for right now. So,
Right.
Jack, thanks for joining me, man. It's great to see you. I'm glad you're doing well, and thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure always, Nick. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you next time.